I am really glad that I watched this movie again recently because I was not going to. I was going to cheat and just go off my memory because I've seen it sometimes, but I knew I had to just have it very fresh. And the freshness helped because it helped me specifically identify my problems with it. I will say right off the bat and go for the jugular. This is my least favorite Indiana Jones film. I do not like Dial of Destiny that much, but what Dial of Destiny has that's admirable, even if not perfect, is it's a character piece about Indy's elderly days, and it's like his kind of final character moment, and it sort of puts that character to rest in a sense. I find Dial of
Yes.
Destiny's action very repetitive, dull.
I
Um,
hated Dial.
Yeah, no, and I completely like I sympathize with you, B, because I will not I'm never going to defend Dial. Um, but and when I
Fucking
say
hated
Dial of
him.
Destiny is better, I'm talking about like not really by that much, but maybe it's because I love Steven Spielberg so much that the disappointment of this movie hurts more. Whereas Dial, I just saw and I was like, oh, hey, there's a train in it, cool, you know. Um, so here's the thing with this movie. It's what's interesting about it is Raiders and Temple and Last Crusade. Even though the formula got more familiar of their era, they were more cutting edge action movies of the time. And this
Yes.
is a film that comes out in 2008, 2 years after Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest, which
And it
though
looks worse.
it looks worse. And
Mm,
so I'm not
I'm
the
glad you
biggest
made the
fan of
comparison. Yeah.
exactly. I'm not the biggest fan of Dead Man's Chest, but like it the other action movies at that time were doing things that were more cutting edge for the aughts with stunts and physical
Mhm.
things. Even things like National Treasure, and I hate to admit it, but National Treasure, Book of Shadows, they're not great films, but they're somehow more timely. This movie is a very awkward hybrid between the grit of the past and modern
Mhm.
CGI, and what we get is this muddy middle look. And I actually think that Janusz Kaminski's cinematography in this movie is incredibly bland because he's going against his gut and he's trying to make it look like the other indie movies. There was one review that said this picture has a very studio feel to it where it's
Yeah.
kind of hokey, and there are moments that are not terrible, but I feel that they're kind of off. I do agree, B. I think the first half is better than the second half. Um,
Mm.
and but I think another thing that I noticed on this viewing that I would have forgotten to mention had I skipped the film. I'm really glad I didn't because I don't want to do a disservice to the audience. But David Kep's script has so much awkward, clunky, expository dialogue laced all over the place. Anthony, you talk about 5 different plots going on at once. Raiders, I watched as a kid. I fully understood the plot of Raiders. Temple of Doom, there's more jokes and
Yes.
but it's so clear. Last Crusade, incredibly clear. This movie is like so, and I'm just gonna like overdo
Hmm.
it for the sake of making my point a little bit, but it's like, okay, so we're going to Area 51. Why? Well, because Indy, you were at Roswell, New Mexico, because there was something there, and there's a thing there, and then. Okay, so the Russians. Okay, so Irina Spalko is looking for artifacts all over the world for the Russian, for the Soviet Union. Okay, Shia LaBeouf shows up out of nowhere when Indy is getting on a train. Hey, you're the guy to talk to because my mom is friends with Ox Huxley, who knows you, and I need your help because there's a crystal skull that he went to the jungle to find, but now the skull is back in Peru, and we have to go find the skull. And I am 43 years old. I watched this movie completely alert, and I literally had trouble following what the motivation was for certain set pieces. They go here, they go there, and it's like what?
Yeah.
And there's so many ideas. They're not bad, but even the dialogue and B, like you were saying, all these great actors, they read these lines and it doesn't sound natural coming out of their mouths. Indiana Jones has a line where he's trying to decipher Oxley's like, and he's like, well, wavy lines means the water, of course, and tears
Mhm.
mean waterful. And you're like, oh my God.
Mm.
This is the one movie where the action, the way it's motivated is characters actually aggressively make decisions that I don't quite understand. Even as early on in the warehouse, the second Indiana Jones escaped the bad guys, Kate Blanchett gets in her truck and starts driving in the opposite direction. And I know she's trying to cut him off, but on screen it looks like they're just trying to space people out to like elongate the scene. And there's these weird moments where Ray Winstone and Indy, their two cars are going to crash inside the warehouse, and he's like, "You don't know him, you don't know him," and they like says that line, and he hammers that line, and you're like, well, whether you know him or not, like the car is coming. What is that? It's there's so many moments in this movie, and a perfect example of the way this movie feels to me. The third waterfall, they go off it. This huge shot where they fall out of the vehicle. The next shot, they are conveniently just chilling by water's edge, and they just will rise out of the thing. There isn't even a shot of them like tumbling around in the water. Like I literally have like continuity issues with it.
Yeah. And Marion's like holding the steering wheel, giggling.
And it's just like it's exactly. It's like
really
what
dumbs her down. Mary's
they dumb her down. And when that scene, my least favorite is when she drives off the cliff onto the tree, and the tree like flies up and hits the Russians on the cliff. I'm like,
that was her intention to do
Disney
that.
violence.
No,
Disney
exactly.
violence.
It's such Disney violence, but
Acme cartoon.
But my final rating would be a 2.5, and I'd give the extra half a star just for the fact that it reminds me of better Indiana Jones films. But that's my review. Yeah.
Wow, 2.5, Sam. That seems generous.
Honestly, I'm. You know what? 2. I'm going to take the half a star off. It's a 2-star film for me. It really is. Yeah.